Robbie Lawler was out of control.
This is Double Cross, the murder of Robbie Lawler.
It was going to be an all-out war with him in the middle of it.
A Crime World special investigation podcast based on my new book, Web of Betrayal, wherever you get your podcasts. I think this case is an absolute eye-opener to just how dangerous prison can be. People have a tendency sometimes, to call it a hotel or, but the reality of the situation is that prisons are very lonely places, but they're also very scary places. Now, the jury in this case heard that a 34-year-old guy called Robert O'Connor got a prison sentence in July of 2022, and he was brought to Mountjoy prison that evening. At 7 p.m, he was assaulted in his cell by a number of other prisoners and had a damaged nose and eye. And following the assault was placed in, he was moved to a separate landing, to the C landing on protection. But 2 days later, he walked into the C2 landing of the prison, and CCTV footage showed him entering another cell, and where he was followed in by 4 men?
3 men, yeah, including the accused.
The accused. Okay. Now, despite the fact that the prison officers quickly reacted when they heard the noises, one said that he saw the accused stamping more than once on Mr. O'Connor's head. And, despite their quick reaction, this guy died.
So it was never in dispute that Mr. David Dunn had attacked Mr. O'Connor. So what the case really focused on, the murder trial was focused on, did he intend to kill him? And did he use enough force that he could have reasonably suspected that a man's life was being put in danger?
Yeah.
The reason it wasn't really in dispute was because there was clearly CCTV evidence of people entering the cell, and ultimately the prison officers were there to witness the attack. It does show, as you said, that we do sometimes describe how prisoners have PlayStations in their cells and mobile phones, but violence is still an everyday reality for people within the prison system. That is how the prisoners discipline each other effectively, and that the stakes can be very low. Stakes can lead to a very extreme level of violence, and there's a huge amount of prisoners on protection at all times in the prison system because of these assaults. Mr. O'Connor was not anything like a serious criminal figure. He was somebody that had been involved in very petty crime over an extended period of time, and the fact that he ended up in prison really led to his death. So it's Mountjoy. It's
you must have to live on your nerves in a prison population.
Yeah, it absolutely
constantly.
Yeah, and this
very stressful.
Very stressful, and this is why people end up associating with sort of gangs really in prison, because that's how they achieve a degree of protection. So they can attach themselves to maybe somebody who has a reputation on the outside and on the inside. That person may be involved in the drugs trade or the counterfeit trade within the prison system, and that gives them a certain degree of power. So if you're associating with somebody or maybe selling drugs for them within the prison, or bringing drugs in for them, or helping arrange stuff, you will get the protection of that figure. And that certainly goes on in all prison systems, probably all prisons across the world as well. Certainly somebody like Trevor Byrne has been described as having that sort of level of power within Mountjoy. So also there are people that can order, I suppose, assaults on people. There's a genuinely sort of tragic element to this.
Is there suggestion what was behind this?
Well, there have been suggestions, but it wasn't really the focus of the investigation. But certainly
the focus of the trial, rather.
Yeah, the focus of the trial. But certainly the moment he went into prison, he was a marked man. And, like all of these things, I would say it's broadly to do with the drugs trade on the outside and things that have gone wrong, which nearly all assaults in the prison are. I mean, I think it was interesting, David Dunn has been convicted of murder. There's an automatic life sentence for that. He's due back up in court on December the 16th. But unlike a lot of these murder cases where people are arrested, you get the routine no comment. But he did have some interesting comments. He said in his first Garda interview, he read from a prepared statement. So this isn't a statement that sometimes people maybe crack under pressure. He gave a prepared statement, which is, slightly unusual for people on a murder trial. He said, "I'm sorry for his family, I really am. I think about it every day and night since this happened. It's killing me inside because he was a good friend of all who knew him. I'm really sorry, Robbie. Yeah, to you and your family." And he had claimed he just wanted to chat with Mr. O'Connor, but once they were inside, Mr. O'Connor punched him twice. Then he initially, in the initial interview, he said he just punched him back. I think he described it as a sort of a rabbit punch. But the guards had described seeing...
The prison officers.
The prison officers had described seeing his head being stamped on.
Yeah.
And
the evidence to the court, which was pretty graphic, was of it was a brain injury essentially, wasn't it?
It was described as his brain had effectively rotated due to the force used,
which broke the stem cells.
Yeah, it broke the stem of the brain.
How would a brain?
Well, your brain is we're not definitely not medical experts, but your brain is attached through a stem that goes up through your neck. And people will have seen the pictures of it where there's a narrow bit in your neck. And obviously that was broken by the force of the rotation of the head. So, I mean, I think the
force of the blow to the head.
Force of the blow. And I mean, it would require considerable force, to say the least. So a rabbit punch, as was initially described, wouldn't have done it, is what the evidence at least suggested. And the prosecution had said that Mr. Dunn's account had evolved from his first interview and described it as being self-sustaining and or self-serving, and lacking in credibility. So it was described by the prosecution as a vicious and unprovoked assault, and said CCTV evidence suggested an element of coordination in the interactions. So, effectively, two people's lives have been,
Now, his family, Mr. O'Connor's family, are going to have a chance to speak about the impact the murders had on their lives before that sentencing on the 16th of September. And a Garda involved in the investigation did tell the court that Mr. O'Connor had been born in the UK. His father was Irish and his mother was English, but they returned to Ireland to live here when he was a small child, and he has one half brother and a half sister, and his mother died in 2008. He said, the Garda said that when Mr. O'Connor died, he'd been in a relationship for 1 year, and his death had had a dramatic and serious effect on his girlfriend's health. So no doubt there is going to be a victim impact statement.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a wasted life, and although the details haven't been gone into about why the assault occurred, from what we've heard, it's relatively minor matters, that have cost one man his life and cost another man probably 20, 25 years of his adult life are now going to be spent behind bars for, probably on something that, at least by his own words, he didn't have a hatred or anything for the victim. These murders in prison, while they do occur, and there are a lot of attacks, a lot of assaults, the murders are relatively rare, but they do occur from time to time. There is other cases before the court, but I suppose one of them, remember from 2016, when a guy, a prisoner called Graham Johnson, was killed in Cork prison, over something as simple as a row over which television to watch, and he was ultimately killed. So they do occur. He in that case, there's a guy serving life, Brian Veal, for that murder. So it's. But you can see that the prison service, that is what they're primed to cope with all the times, these outside issues being brought into the prison service. And obviously some of the people in there certainly have a tendency towards extreme violence.
For sure. And obviously this was some sort of a personal dispute between these two men. This was not a gangland killing. This was nothing to. This was before the normal courts and a jury. not the Special Criminal Court. And the evidence given by the prosecution was that, as opposed to Dunn's claim that he invited O'Connor into his cell for a friendly chat or that he acted in self-defence, that they could see that he was basically lured in there for the purpose of being attacked. This is a personal dispute between two people, and that's how it wound up in prison. That's not gang related.
No.
No,
you're not talking about some sort of a high level criminality involved. They were very, very minor criminal figures. Many of these guys end up as a result of addiction, of a life that, sucks them into petty crime and repeated petty crimes, and eventually starts mounting into prisons or prison sentences. And it's a sad and a tough existence I think some of these people have. In this case, it's a very, very tragic outcome.
Okay. Thanks, Niall.
Thanks, Nicola.
I'm Nicola Tallant, and you're watching Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs and the underworld in Ireland and across the globe. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you can be the first to watch all our latest episodes. You can also listen wherever you get your podcasts.